I used to think that the sound of a shattering heart would be loud like a car crash or a glass vase hitting a hardwood floor. But for me, it was silent. It was the sound of a notification banner popping up on an iPad that wasn't supposed to be unlocked. My name is Boone. Today is my 35th birthday. And as I stand here in the kitchen of our suburban home, surrounded by the smell of expensive catering and the fake laughter of 40 people I barely like, I realize that everything I've built over the last decade is a lie. My wife Hollis is currently across the room smiling at my mother, her hand resting gracefully on a glass of Chardonnay. She looks perfect. She always looks perfect. That's her gift. She's an expert at curation, curating our life, our home, and apparently her betrayals. Before we get into the wreckage of tonight, I have to ask you something. Have you ever looked at someone you've shared a bed with for years and realized you're staring at a complete stranger? If you've ever felt that cold chill of realization, drop a comment below and tell me where you're listening from. It helps me feel a little less alone in this. And if you're new here, hit that subscribe button. I'm not here to preach. I'm just here to tell you how I survived the longest night of my life. Our story isn't a fairy tale, but it was a good story. Or so I thought. We met at a coffee shop in downtown Chicago on a rainy Tuesday. I was a struggling architect, and she was this whirlwind of energy working in high-end PR. She had this way of making you feel like you were the only person in the room. When she looked at you, the rest of the world just blurred out. We bought this house 3 years ago, a beautiful craftsman with a wraparound porch and a yard big enough for the kids we planned to have. I spent weekends sanding the floors and painting the trim. Every nail I drove into these walls was an act of love. I wasn't just building a house. I was building a fortress for our future. But fortifications only work if the threat is on the outside. I didn't know the breach was already internal. It started with the small things, the red flags everyone talks about, but no one wants to see when they're in love. The phone stayed face down on the nightstand. The late nights at the office became emergency strategy sessions. The intimacy didn't just stop, it evaporated. It felt like I was living with a ghost who only came home to sleep. When I'd ask her if something was wrong, she'd give me that practiced PR smile, the one she uses for difficult clients, and tell me I was being insecure. She'd call it work stress and make me feel guilty for even questioning her. That's the thing about gaslighting. It doesn't just burn you. It makes you believe you're the one holding the match. The breaking point happened 4 days ago. Hollis was in the shower and her iPad, the one we usually use for streaming music, was sitting on the kitchen island. A message flashed on the screen. It wasn't a work email. It was from a man named Zane. I didn't recognize the name at first, but the message was unmistakable. I can't wait to see you at the party. It's going to be so much fun playing house while he's right there. My blood didn't boil. It turned to ice. I didn't scream. I didn't throw the iPad. I just sat there, watching the steam rise from my coffee, feeling the foundation of my life crack and slide into the dirt. Zane. I searched the name in my mind until I found him, a younger, arrogant creative director she'd been working with on a new campaign. I'd met him once at a gallery opening. He was the kind of guy who wore sunglasses indoors and talked about disrupting the industry. I remember thinking he was a clown. I didn't realize he was the one laughing at me. I had two choices in that moment. I could have walked into the bathroom, pulled back the shower curtain, and demanded an explanation. But I knew what I'd get: more lies, more gaslighting, a messy divorce where she'd play the victim and take half of everything I'd bled for. No, if she wanted to play house, I'd give her a mansion. I decided then and there that my 35th birthday wouldn't be a celebration of my life, but a funeral for our marriage. I spent the next 72 hours being the most attentive, loving, and oblivious husband in America. I told her I wanted a huge party. I told her I wanted everyone there, her parents, my parents, our college friends, her coworkers. I wanted the biggest audience possible for what I was about to do. I hired a high-end catering crew. I ordered cases of the champagne she likes. I even told her to invite Zane, claiming I wanted to get to know her colleagues better. I watched her eyes light up with a mix of excitement and predatory triumph. She thought she was winning. She thought I was so broken down, so desperate for her attention, that I was finally playing by her rules. Every time she kissed my cheek or told me she loved me over the last few days, I felt a physical sickness in my gut. Tonight, the house is glowing. We look like the American dream, but inside, I'm a ticking clock. I've been watching Hollis all night. Every few minutes, her eyes dart toward the front door. Suddenly, I see the shift. Hollis catches someone's eye near the entrance, Zane. He's standing there with a smug grin that makes my skin crawl. They exchange a subtle private signal. Hollis waits 5 minutes, then whispers to my mother about checking dessert in the kitchen and starts weaving through the guests. I don't follow her. Not yet. I count to 10. I reach into my pocket and feel the cold, hard plastic of the USB drive. I turn my back on the crowd and walk toward the small den where the master controls for the media system are located. I enter the darkened den and the blue light of the monitor reflects in my eyes. I insert the drive into the port. My finger hovers over the play button, the tip of my nail digging into the skin of my index finger as I stare at the file labeled Birthday Gift. The silence in this small room is heavy, vibrating with the weight of what's about to happen, while just a few feet away, the muffled sound of a pop song begins to play, signaling that the party is reaching its peak. The cursor blinks on the screen, a steady rhythmic pulse of white light that feels like a countdown. I can hear the bass of the music thumping through the drywall, vibrating the very floorboards I'm standing on. It's a upbeat, mindless track, the kind of song people dance to when they aren't paying attention to the lyrics. Outside this den, the air is filled with the scent of toasted appetizers and expensive gin, but in here, it smells like ozone and stagnant air. I take a breath, and it feels like swallowing shards of ice. My thumb slides across the trackpad, moving the arrow until it rests directly over the execution command. I don't click yet. Instead, I lean toward the window, pulling the heavy velvet curtain back just an inch. My eyes scan the driveway and the gravel path leading toward the detached garage. There. A shadow detaches itself from the side of the house, moving with a frantic, cat-like grace. It's Hollis. She's wrapped her arms around herself, not because she's cold, but because she's trying to occupy as little space as possible. She disappears behind the row of tall hedges I planted 2 springs ago to give us privacy. The irony is so thick, I can almost taste it. A moment later, another shadow follows. Zane. He doesn't sneak. He swaggered. Even in the dark, I can recognize the cocky tilt of his head. He looks like a man who has never been told no in his entire life, a man who views other people's commitments as mere suggestions. They vanish into the gloom of the far garden, a spot we once designated for a future gazebo. My grip on the edge of the desk tightens until the wood groans. I'm not just a husband anymore. I'm a spectator to my own demolition. I think back to the hours I spent installing the high-definition security system last month. I told Hollis it was for peace of mind because of the recent string of neighborhood break-ins. I didn't tell her that I'd also hardwired the dashcam in her SUV to sync with our home server every time she pulled into the garage. I didn't tell her that the smart features of our home had become my private detectives. I minimized the media player for a split second to check the live outdoor feed on a secondary tab. The night vision renders the world in grainy shades of ghost green. I see them. They are standing near the old oak tree. Zane reaches out and tucks a strand of hair behind her ear, a gesture so intimate and familiar it makes me want to claw the screen. Hollis doesn't flinch. She leans into it. She laughs a silent, jagged vibration on the screen and checks her watch. She's worried about the cake. She's worried about the timing of the happy birthday song. She's managing her infidelity like a project deadline. I feel a strange hollow sensation in my chest, as if my internal organs have simply evaporated, leaving nothing but a vast, echoing cave. I'm waiting for the rage to consume me, for the hot blood to rush to my face, but it never comes. There is only this terrifying crystalline clarity. I move the cursor back to the file. This isn't just a video. It's a dossier. It's a chronological map of her choices. It starts with the GPS logs that didn't match her stories, followed by the audio clips from the car where they joked about my predictability. It ends with the footage from tonight, the footage I'm recording right now as the cameras track them in the garden. The door to the den creaks open a fraction, and a sliver of warm light from the hallway cuts across the carpet. It's my best friend Cooper. He looks worried. He doesn't say anything. He just nods toward the foyer. The music has shifted. The upbeat pop is gone, replaced by a slower, more formal tune. The happy birthday moment is approaching. I stand up my joints feeling like they're made of rusted iron. I reach out and tap the cue button. The system is now slaved to the main projector in the living room. All I have to do is hit enter on the remote in my pocket, and the year in review slideshow everyone is expecting will be replaced by the truth in review. I walk out of the den and back into the heat of the party. The transition is jarring. Then the door swings open. Hollis walks back into the room. She's adjusted her dress. She's glowing the picture of a devoted wife returning to her husband's side. Behind her, a few moments later, Zane slips back into the house. Hollis makes her way to me, her heels clicking on the hardwood with a terrifying confidence. She reaches out and takes my hand, her skin warm against my icy fingers. She leans in close, her perfume, the one I bought her for our anniversary, clinging to her skin like a lie. "Ready for your surprise, babe," she whispers. I look down at her, seeing the flecks of gold in her eyes that I used to find so beautiful. I feel the small, hard remote in my pocket, my thumb find the enter key. I don't smile, and I don't look away. I simply nod. "I've never been more ready in my life, Hollis," I say. I lead her toward the center of the foyer, where the guests have already begun to form a wide, expectant circle around the large projector screen. I raise my hand to signal the catering staff, and as the lights in the room begin to dim, I feel the sharp metallic edge of the remote digging into my palm. The room descends into a calculated twilight. The chatter of 40 voices doesn't just stop, it stretches thin, replaced by the mechanical hum of the projector cooling fan. Hollis's hand is still linked with mine, her fingers interlaced with a confidence that feels like an insult. I can feel the pulse in her wrist, steady, rhythmic, unbothered. It is the heartbeat of a woman who believes she has successfully juggled 2 lives without dropping a single ball. In the dim light, the white screen at the end of the foyer looks like an empty canvas, a void waiting to be filled with the wreckage I've spent the last few days assembling. I slide my thumb over the plastic casing of the remote in my pocket. The texture is familiar now, a talisman of the truth. I don't look at the screen, I look at Zane. He's standing near the buffet table, a smug, self-satisfied smirk playing on his lips as he sips his drink. He catches my gaze for a split second and gives a slight, mocking nod, a silent toast from the thief to the man he's robbing. He has no idea that the locks have already been changed. Attention, everyone. I say, my voice cutting through the stillness with a clarity that surprises even me. It isn't the voice of a husband. It's the voice of an architect describing a structural failure. Hollis told me she had a surprise planned for my 35th. But I think after 7 years of marriage, it's my turn to show you all what we've really been building. Hollis giggles, a light musical sound that used to be my favorite thing in the world. She squeezes my arm and looks at our guests, her face radiating a performative modesty. Boone, you're so dramatic. She whispers loud enough for the front row to hear. It's your birthday. Just let us celebrate you. I don't answer. I simply press the button. The screen doesn't flicker to life with a happy birthday graphic or a montage of our honeymoon in Tuscany. Instead, the first image that burns into the retinas of everyone in the room is a stark, high-contrast screenshot of a text message thread. The timestamp is from 3 days ago. The names at the top are clear, Hollis and Zane. The room doesn't gasp. Not yet. There is a confused collective tilt of heads, a squinting of eyes as people try to process why a private conversation is being projected in 1080p resolution. I feel Hollis's hand go limp in mine. The warmth evaporates, instantly replaced by a clammy, frantic twitch. I hit the next button. Now it's an audio file. The speakers I spent thousands of dollars on now broadcast a recording from her car's interior microphone. It's the sound of her laughing, that same musical giggle, followed by Zane's voice. How much longer are you going to keep up the happy housewife routine, Hollis? The guy is a bore. Then comes Hollis's response, clear as a bell vibrating through the rafters of our home. Just until the house is finished, Zane. Let him keep building. It just makes the equity higher when I finally leave. The silence that follows is deafening. It's a physical weight pressing down on the lungs of everyone present. I press the button again, triggering the final sequence. This is the live capture footage from 10 minutes ago. The night vision makes everything look alien, spectral. There they are, Hollis and Zane under the old oak tree. The resolution is so high, you can see the way she clings to him, the way his hands roam over the dress I paid for, the way they share a kiss that is as desperate as it is transactional. The footage isn't edited for artistic flair. It's raw and clinical. It shows them checking their watches, fixing their clothes, and conspiring to walk back into this house and look me in the eye. Hollis koi kung kung. Len Cheng Nhung Jola Mot Than Choi Tai Jut Kwang. Turn it off, Boone. Stop this. What are you doing? This is a misunderstanding. She reaches for the remote in my hand, but I hold it high above my head. I am the gatekeeper of her shame. It looks exactly like what it is, Hollis, I say. It looks like a woman who thought her husband was a fool. Zane tries to make a move toward the door, but Cooper simply steps into his path. The guests are no longer just observers. They are witnesses to a crime of the heart. I click the final file. It's a PDF document, a copy of the divorce petition I had my lawyer draft 3 days ago. Happy birthday to me, I whisper. I step back, moving away from the center of the room. I don't want to be near her. I walk toward the front door and pick up the single small suitcase I left by the coat rack. It contains my passport, some clothes, and the blueprints for a house I'm going to build somewhere else. I turn back one last time. Hollis is standing in the middle of the foyer, the projector light still bathing her in that sickly green glow. She looks small and insignificant. I don't wait for her to find her words. I simply turn the handle of the door and step out into the cool, honest night air. The sound of the door latch clicking shut behind me is the most satisfying thing I've heard in a decade. I walk straight to my truck, leaving the wreckage of my 35th birthday behind me in the dust. The ignition of my truck turns over with a raw mechanical growl that swallows the distant muffled chaos still erupting inside the house. As the headlights sweep across the manicured lawn, they catch the very hedges I once trimmed with such pride, now just dark, silent witnesses to a life I'm leaving in the rearview mirror. I don't put the vehicle in drive immediately. I sit there, my hands gripping the steering wheel so hard the leather groans. For the first time in years, the air inside my lungs doesn't feel like it's being shared with a lie. It's thin, sharp, and entirely mine. Now I know my comment section is about to become an absolute battlefield. Some of you are probably thinking, "Boone, that was cold. You humiliated her in front of her own parents, her friends, and her colleagues." While others are probably shouting at their screens saying, "She deserved every second of that public execution for what she did." I want to know where you stand on this. Was the public reveal too much? Or was it the only way to ensure she couldn't gaslight me one more time, or spin the story to make me the villain tomorrow, drop a justice served, or a too far in the comments? I'm going to be reading every single one of them because honestly, in that moment, I didn't know if I was being a hero or a monster. I just knew I had to be finished. I shift into gear and pull away the gravel spitting beneath my tires. I'm not driving to a hotel and I'm not driving to a bar. I'm just driving. In America, we have this obsession with closure, like it's a door you can just slam and lock. But real closure is messy. It's the long, quiet miles of a highway at midnight, where you finally stop rehearsing what you should have said and start listening to the silence. And as I drive, I can't help but think about Zane. A lot of people believe the third party isn't to blame, that the betrayal is only on the spouse who broke the vows. But I look at it differently. If you walk into a house you didn't build and start tearing down the walls, while the owner is standing right there, you're just as guilty as the person who left the door unlocked. What's your take on that? Should I have blurred his face, or did he earn his seat in that front row of shame? Let's get a debate going below. I want to see your perspectives on the other person's responsibility in a situation like this. The city lights begin to blur into neon streaks of blue and amber. I think about the blueprints in my suitcase. They aren't for a mansion or a showpiece for a PR campaign. They are for a small cabin on a piece of land I bought in my own name months ago, tucked away in the woods where the only social circles are the trees and the river. I realize now that I didn't just lose a wife tonight. I lost a burden. I lost the exhausting need to be enough for someone who was never going to be satisfied. My phone begins to vibrate in the cup holder. Hollis. Then again, Hollis. She's calling to explain, to bargain, to scream, or maybe just to see if I'm still under her spell. I don't silence it. I don't block her, not yet. I just let it vibrate until it flatlines into nothing. The power she had over me was built on the belief that she was who she claimed to be. Now that the mask is gone, she's just a stranger with my phone number. If you've ever felt like the villain in your own story because you finally stood up for yourself, look at my house in that rear view mirror. Keeping the peace is just a slow way of dying when the person next to you is at war with your soul. I've spent so long making room for her ego that I forgot how much space my own life takes up. Before I head into this next chapter, I want to thank you for walking through this fire with me. If you've been through something similar, if you've ever had to burn a bridge to keep from drowning, share your story below. We're building a community here where the truth matters more than the appearance, and your stories help people like me feel a little less alone in the wreckage. Don't forget to hit that subscribe button and stay tuned because tomorrow I start building something that no one can tear down. I'm Boone. My life as I knew it ended at 10 p.m. tonight, and honestly, I've never felt more alive. I'll see you in the next video, when we start building the new foundation from scratch. I pull into a 24-hour diner, the smell of strong coffee and old vinyl welcoming me like an old friend. I step out of the truck, the cool air hitting my face like a benediction. I don't look back. I don't wonder who is cleaning up the broken glass or what the guests are whispering. I just open the door, the small bell above it, chiming a clear, bright note of welcome, and I step into the light of a day that belongs entirely to me.